The hunting grounds of Draxian Prime were not meant for the weak. Kara had learned this truth within her first hour on the planet, watching from the observation deck as massive predators, each the size of a small shuttle, tore through the crimson forests below. The Draxi were apex hunters, their civilization built on the philosophy that strength determined worth, and mercy was a concept reserved for the foolish. Yet here she stood, the only human among them, serving as a diplomatic envoy to a species that viewed her kind as soft-skinned curiosities. "The human watches again," rumbled pack leader Zorvath, his triple-jointed legs carrying his armored bulk across the council chamber. "Does your species never tire of observing what it cannot comprehend?" Kara kept her expression neutral, though her jaw tightened. 3 months of insults, 3 months of being treated as little more than an amusing pet. But Earth needed this alliance. The Draxi controlled 7 star systems rich in quantum crystals, resources humanity desperately needed for their Jumpgate network. "I comprehend more than you think, pack leader," she replied evenly. A chittering laugh echoed from the younger Draxi assembled in the chamber. Among them, one smaller figure remained silent. Vex, barely past his juvenile molt, watched Kara with eyes that held something different than contempt. Curiosity, perhaps. Or was it kinship? The cub had been an outcast since birth, smaller than his clutchmates, his hunting instincts dulled by what the Draxi called defective breeding. In any other species, Vex might have been cherished for his gentle nature. Among the Draxi, he was tolerated only because their laws forbade the culling of young. That tolerance ended at sunset. Kara was reviewing trade agreements in her quarters when the screaming started. Not the roar of an adult Draxi, but the high-pitched shriek of a juvenile in distress. Her translator implant processed the words between the screams. "Please, no, I'll do better." She was moving before thought caught up with instinct, her hand grabbing the plasma cutter she kept for emergencies. The corridor lights flickered as she sprinted toward the sound, her boots pounding against the obsidian floor. The training arena opened before her like a coliseum of nightmares. 6 adult Draxi formed a circle, their mandibles clicking in what Kara had learned was amusement. In the center, Vex lay curled, ichor seeping from dozens of claw marks across his carapace. Pack leader Zorvath stood over him, one massive talon pressed against the cub's thorax. "The weak must be reminded of their place," Zorvath announced to the assembled crowd, "or removed from the pack entirely." "This is a lesson," added another elder, her scything claws still dripping with Vex's blood. "The cub failed his 3rd hunt trial. By our law." "Your law is barbarism dressed in tradition," Kara's voice cut through the arena like a blade. The entire assembly turned, hundreds of eyes reflecting in the dim light like scattered stars fixed upon her. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. Zorvath's mandibles spread wide in what might have been a smile. "The human speaks of barbarism? Your species kills its own over resources ideology, invisible lines drawn on dirt. You lecture us on civilization?" Kara stepped into the arena, her smaller frame dwarfed by the towering Draxi. "We kill in war, in anger, in fear. Terrible things, yes. But we don't torture our children for being different. We don't punish them for being born weaker than their siblings. He is not a child. He is a failed predator. He's a cub." Kara's voice rose, echoing off the vaulted ceiling. "And you call yourselves apex hunters? I see cowards. I see a pack so insecure in their own strength that they need to brutalize their young to feel powerful." The clicking stopped. The arena fell into a silence so profound that Kara could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Zorvath's claws flexed. "You dare? I dare? You want to talk about daring?" Something primal surged through Kara's veins, something ancient that her species had carried from the savannah to the stars. "Touch that cub again and you'll discover why humans didn't evolve to be the strongest or the fastest. You'll learn why we're the species that conquered a planet full of predators bigger and meaner than us." She raised the plasma cutter, its edge igniting with brilliant blue light. Not aimed at Zorvath, but held in a fighter's stance. Her body positioned between the pack leader and Vex were the ones who decided that protecting the weak wasn't weakness, it was the highest form of strength. Zorvath lunged. What happened next would be analyzed in Draxi academies for generations. The human didn't flee, didn't flinch. She moved like water, her smaller size suddenly an advantage as she ducked beneath claws that could shred steel. The plasma cutter sang through the air, not to kill, but to mark, a searing line across Zorvath's shoulder plating that would scar permanently. The pack leader roared and stumbled back, more from shock than pain. Kara stood over Vex, chest heaving, eyes blazing with an intensity that seemed to burn in the dim arena. In my species, we have a saying: the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. You want an alliance with humanity? You want access to our technology, our trade routes, our friendship? She looked around the arena, meeting the eyes of every Draxi present. Then understand this: we don't abandon our pack. We don't torture the weak for entertainment. And we sure as hell don't stand by while bullies hurt children. Her voice dropped to something cold and hard. If that makes us soft in your eyes, then maybe you need to reconsider what strength really means. The silence stretched. Then, from the back of the arena, a slow clicking began. One Draxi, then another, then dozens. The sound of mandibles tapping in what Kara's implant translated as respectful acknowledgement. Zorvath stared at the human, at the cub she defended, at the scar she'd given him. Finally, his mandibles closed. Perhaps, he said slowly, there is more to learn from humanity than we assumed. Kara didn't lower her weapon until medical personnel arrived for Vex. As they carried the cub away, his eyes met hers, and in that moment she saw understanding pass between two outcasts who'd found strength not in violence, but in defiance of it. The alliance was ratified the following week, with new provisions about the treatment of Draxi young, and in the chronicles of both species, they would remember the day a human stood in an arena of predators and taught them that sometimes the fiercest roar comes not from fangs and claws, but from an unbreakable will to protect those who cannot protect themselves.